What's up, my comic comrades? Today we tell you who the all-new Venom is. If you're not aware, everything changed during the all-out war between Eddie, his son Dylan, and a future version of himself known as Meridius for control of Venom and the future. In the end, Dylan was forced to stab his own father to save the day, which led to both Eddie and Carnage becoming fatally wounded, with their only hope of survival being to bond with one another. Because the Venom symbiote ran off, not wanting to hurt Eddie or Dylan anymore, thinking it was the source of their pain and suffering. So it found a new person to bond with, giving us the all-new Venom. And the person who became this all-new Venom has been a mystery until now. If you haven't read the first all-new Venom issue, we broke it all down for you in this episode, which also gives you the finale of the Venom War event. As for today, we're picking up with issue 2 of the all-new Venom and making our way to the reveal in issue 5. Okay, so issue 2 starts off with all-new Venom in Times Square, basically going off against the Death Throes. If you're unaware, the Death Throes are a juggling group of costume crooks and one of New York's oldest organized criminal collectives. They juggle all sorts of weapons to use against their targets. The funny thing is, they say all this to the all-new Venom while adding, "We could beat you into paste. The chances aren't looking good for you. We're auditioning to replace Oddball today, so we have 3 would-be members, all eager to impress." Venom says, "Oh sure, gotta hang with the cool criminal jugglers. People actually want to join you goofs?" They answer, "Why not? We're the best of the best in our chosen field, plus we have legal aid, profit sharing, membership cards. We're kind of the Avengers of crime if you think about it. But a lot more fun." Long story short, the 3 members trying out for the Death Throes start attacking Venom. As we see the female pirate-themed juggler Heave-Ho throw cannonballs at Venom, but they don't do anything to Venom, at which point Chuck Stuff, a villain-themed juggler, starts throwing cheesesteaks at Venom, while simultaneously the character Tosser, a British-themed juggler, throws bricks at Venom, but they're basically just annoying him, at which point he punches all 3 of them back. Death Throes then realizes they're not gonna beat Venom, so they go to escape Plan C. But while they escape, Bombshell throws her bombs at Venom saying, "But don't worry, they're all duds." But which one? Even I don't know, so while we take a powder, better find the gunpowder. Venom is then forced to use his tongue to taste out the bomb to save everyone in Times Square. He then tracks it down and grabs it with his tongue, bringing it into his mouth, letting it explode inside of his head. Now at this point, S.C.A.R and/or Ripcord, Slice, and Heater show up, and they're there to take Venom in, saying, "Load up short-range weaponry and light the symbiote sucker up." Ripcord continues to say, "Heater, Slice flank him from the sides, pin him down," but Venom is able to evade, saying, "Modified guardsman armor? What are you, a new jury?" Ripcord replies, "They were vigilantes with a grudge. We're agents of the federal government tasked with symbiote containment and relocation." Slice adds, "We do got a grudge though," with Ripcord saying, "Right, losing friends and family to rampaging zombiotes will do that, although my beef with you is a little older." Squad leader Jillian Carson, codename Ripcord, "At your service, monster. Remember Jack Carson, Spearhead? He almost killed you, but he chose his orders over finishing the job. He was my brother." Venom replies, "So you're Jack and Jill, and you picked this hill to die on?" She replies, "Jack's already dead. A symbiote killed him because even now some idiots think humans can work with brain-eating aliens. Tell me, under there, do you honestly think you're the hero? Even if that thing doesn't destroy your life right away, do you really think you can replace Eddie Brock? Do you think you're anything more to this space Dracula than its next meal?" Venom replies, "You're right, it's not like with Eddie. It can't be. We're not family. We're not even friends. But we're stuck together, and we're together enough to do this." Eventually, Venom gets tired of fighting them and says, "Sorry folks, we're late for a meeting." Ripcord's all like, "Meeting? What meeting?" We're then taken across town to the Daily Bugle, where Robertson comes walking in late to a meeting with Luke Cage and Rick Jones. He says, "Sorry I'm late. You wouldn't believe how busy a newspaper can get." Luke Cage says, "You're talking to the mayor of New York, Robbie. I only just got here myself." Rick Jones adds, "And I also have no alibi for the last half hour." We're all thinking it, right? Venom was just now in action in Times Square, according to my phone, and once again, none of the 3 of us can verify our whereabouts. Robertson says, "Let me close the door at least, Rick." Right now, the newsroom thinks Cape colonist Rick Jones is interviewing Luke Cage, ex-hero, while old man Robertson shows him the ropes. "We don't need to announce to a room full of reporters that we think one of us might be the new Venom." Cage adds, "Maybe one of us. Let's not forget Madame Masque is a suspect. Because if she's Venom, we're going to regret wasting time on each other." Rick asks, "Is that why you called out the old Cape killers?" Cage responds, "S.C.A.R are federal risks. But sure, when the paperwork landed on my desk, I didn't fight too hard. The agency's goal is to return symbiotes to natural habitats in space, not kill them or turn them into weapons. Might be the best deal they'll ever get." Rick adds, "It will look suspicious if you did make a fuss." They continue to passive-aggressively accuse each other of being the new Venom. Later that evening, we're taken to the home of MJ and Paul, as Dylan Brock is staying with them. Paul is trying to be a father figure to Dylan, saying, "No phone at the table please, Dylan." But Dylan replies, "Cram it, weirdo." Paul is all like, "Excuse me?" But MJ asks to talk to him in the kitchen. Paul tells her, "Did you hear that, MJ? What's wrong with this kid? I'm making my special cuisine and this is how he talks. She tells him, Paul, he was bonded to a violent alien for months. He was homeless. He stabbed his own father live on TV. I'm sorry the traumatized child insulted you. While they're talking in the kitchen, Dylan is on his phone, seeing that Now Magazine is reporting about an abandoned NYC building owned by Madame Masque's family. Dylan then, of course, sneaks out and makes his way to said building, and when he walks up, he says, not a bad spot. The gang would have loved a place like this. Maybe I should... No. Stick to the plan. Venom first, then Sleeper, and then Thompson and all the other traders. Inside the building, we see A.I.M along with Dr. Forson and Chance. Now remember, A.I.M is looking for Madame Masque, so they're hoping she shows up there, being that this building belongs to her family, even though it's unlikely that she will, and they even know this. So much so, Chance says the odds of her showing up being dumb enough to come use this location are 0. So I hope someone brought a deck of cards in for a long, boring night. But at this point, Venom walks in saying, good news, Chance, your night just got a lot less boring. As Dylan watches from the window saying, yes. Chance says, well, the all-new Venom. Are the rumors true? I wonder, is that Whitney Frost under the mask? Place your bets, as he shoots Venom in the head with the bullet going clean through. Dylan, while looking through the window, says, so it's not Luke Cage, as the issue comes to an end. But let's roll right into issue 3. Issue 3 opens up exactly where issue 2 left off, as we're looking at Chance through the hole in Venom's head, with Chance saying, you just lost me $1,000. Venom says, details, Chance. He replies, I made a bet with, I want to say, Taskmaster or Black Ant. I've got it written down somewhere, but I thought it was a sure thing that Mayor Cage was in there. Similar height, got that hero build. You can tell he misses the action, but no, that bullet would have bounced off his dome instead of gone through. So you're shorter, under 6 feet, I'd say. Triple or Nothing says it really is Madame Masque under there. As Dylan is still outside looking through the window listening, he says, sure, or Robbie Robertson, or Rick Jones. Venom tells Chance that's a big bet, as he makes wrist guns out of this symbiote. A.I.M says, he's armed, open fire. Venom's all like, whatever you say, as he starts firing from his wrist guns while saying, this is our take on impact webbing. Gooey, sticky symbiote web fluid in a hard candy shell. It's like a paintball, sticks like glue. At this point, Dr. Forson attacks Venom with 2 arm sound cannons saying 150 decibels, courtesy of Dr. Fortissimo. And although it hurts Venom, he's still holding pretty strong, with the doctor saying, you've grown more resistant to sonic weaponry over the years, monster, but it still packs a punch, doesn't it? Chance tells the doctor, you moron, you'll burst all our eardrums. The doctor replies, you ain't heard nothing yet, as he cranks it up even more, which blows out the windows to the building, sending Dylan flying back as he gets cut with glass, screaming, ow. Venom hears this saying, Dylan? With Dylan being hurt, it makes Venom extremely pissed, which causes him to get a boost of energy and easily take down the doctor, saying, you want to hurt us, doctor? Fine. We're used to pain. But when you hurt a child, when you hurt my son, that's when we put our foot down. As he literally does so on the doctor's arm, breaking the sound cannons. Venom then webs up Chance and the rest of A.I.M and goes to get Dylan and then says, do you know what time it is, young man? Dylan responds, you're making jokes now? You broke the bond again, ran away again, left me with nobody again. That's a joke to you? Venom replies, sorry, it's the Spider-Man in me. Dylan says, or the Rick Jones in you. Venom replies, don't start with that. Dylan then points his finger up at Venom saying, don't, nice contraction, all that new banter flipping around Reed Richards stuff. You think I can't tell what's you and what's your new host? You think I'm not gonna find out who it is? Venom says, you shouldn't be trying, Dylan. You should be at home. Thompson set you up with a family. Dylan's all like, Top Knot and the supermodel, 2 rich snots? They don't know me. You're my family. Why aren't I with you? Venom ultimately tells Dylan, look, I can't say too much. Webbed up villains have ears, but I never abandon you, Dylan. You're safe with your new foster parents, and your safety is my first priority. Always. The bond between us is the bond between parent and child. I would never break that. Dylan is all like, so come back. Venom says, I wish I could, son. I wish we could be all a family again, but that's just not how things can be right now. He then hugs Dylan and says, it's nobody's fault. It's just how it is. But it doesn't mean I love you any less. As Venom hugs Dylan, Dylan says, okay, now I'm thinking you're Robertson. Venom responds, will you stop? But Dylan doesn't, saying, we're back to the suspect list, down to 3. If it's not Luke Cage in there, Rick Jones, the martial arts jokester, Robbie Robertson, the doting father figure, or the one suspect who would know this safe house existed, is that you in there, Madame Masque? A voice says, clearly not, as we see Madame Masque just arrive. She tells Venom, I'm not here to hurt a child. I'm not here to hurt you, whoever you are. I owe you for covering my escape, actually. While Forson was fighting you, he wasn't chasing me. Venom then asks, how'd she escape the trial? She says, new shoes for the trial provided by Riker. There was a directional sonic drill in the heel of one of them, and one of my guards just retired to parts unknown after coming into inheritance. Thus does the world turn. She then asks, are you going to be leaving with your boy a nice payout for your pest control services? Or do we have a problem? Venom replies, sorry, you're a bad guy. When we see bad guys, we always have a problem. She then says, then I take it you haven't looked in a mirror lately, as she unleashes rounds on Venom, but Venom just jumps towards towards her, knocking her into several crates with a punch. A fire then starts where she basically says, "What's your choice, Venom? Leave me be or put out the fire? Or are you more of a lethal protector?" Which is a nice little callback to the iconic Venom Lethal Protector run. After this, Dylan returns back to his room where Paul is there waiting, and Dylan's all like, "You're not my dad." Paul responds, "No, I'm not. Unlike him, I'm here. I do my best, Dylan. I swear to God, that's all I've ever tried to do. My best for the people I care for. And if I keep trying, maybe I can get a second chance. Make up for the mistakes I've made. The blood on my hands. But hey, I don't know anything about what you're going through, right? I have to call MJ back. Get some sleep." As he walks out. Then on the last 2 pages of the issue, we see Madame Masque talking to someone looking for help for her A.I.M problem. As she says, "I want A.I.M under control and you want them under your control. We can help each other." Whoever she's talking to says, "I heard you met one of the up-and-comers, Dr. Fortissimo." Real name, Alvin Snodgrass. She says, "Actually, the new Venom took care of him before I arrived." Very easily played. That one picked saving a few nobodies over ending the real threat. He didn't even spot that I took a vial of this with me. The person asks, "Is that?" As she holds it up, she says, "A full dose. Guess what I want to do to you with it?" The person says, "This is why I like you, Whitney. You have vision. More people should appreciate that." But that's why Andrew Forson needs to go, isn't it? He's too small-minded. Shall we begin? As we see the person she's talking to is M.O.D.O.K. And this, my friends, leads us to issue 4. Issue 4 opens up at North Brothers Island, a secret facility in New York City. And we see it's the facility where they're keeping the symbiotes like Toxin and Sleeper. We see Flash Thompson there, aka Anti-Venom, saying, "Lunch is served, Toxin, a 4-pound block of chocolate washed down with a bowl of synthesized brain chemicals to cover any gaps in your diet. Sorry it's so basic, but it'll keep you alive at least." Toxin says, "It'll keep me from dying, Thompson. There's a difference. How's Bren?" Thompson replies, "He's at home where kids his age ought to be. He's safe." Toxin replies, "He was safe, bonded to me." Thompson asks, "Was he? Remember Pat Mulligan talks? Remember what happened to your first host?" As Toxin eats chocolate, he says, "He died. Thank you for the chocolate. If it were up to the other jailers, we'd starve to death." Thompson tells Toxin, "I'm more of a trustee, strictly speaking," with Toxin replying, "But you're still out there and we're in here. For how long? When do you get around to firing us off into space?" Thompson responds, "We can't just exile symbiotes to random planets, much as some people in power would love to. They tried that with the Hulk once. It didn't go great," clearly referring to the Illuminati launching Hulk into space, sending him to the planet SC.A.R, which eventually led to the Planet Hulk and World War Hulk storylines. Thompson goes on to say there's a lot of interstellar diplomacy in finding a safe harbor for symbiotes. Toxin then gets sad, saying, "Because nobody wants us. You should let them starve us. Let them execute us. Anything is better than this loneliness day after day. You're lucky, Flash. You're a host creature, naturally self-contained. You don't need other people like we do. No being in the universe knows solitude as a symbiote does." The two continue talking, and we see that Sleeper's there, and Toxin tells Flash, "He hasn't talked to me since we've been in here. And it's not anger, it's more like a zen state. He purrs, he sleeps, he eats like a real Earth cat. There's a way Bren would say it, he's chilling." At this moment, Ripcord of SC.A.R comes to get Flash and basically reprimands him for being nice to Toxin, and Sleeper saying, "You're there to feed the freaks and get status updates, Thompson. SC.A.R isn't paying you to babysit them." He tells her, "You're not paying me at all, Carson. All those freaks are sentient life forms." She continues to reprimand him, basically telling him, "The only reason they're still alive and the kids, their hosts, aren't in jail is because we have an implied transaction. The Symbiote Containment and Rendition Department provides certain indulgences. 3 delinquents stay out of jail, and in return, we get the symbiote expertise only the great Flash Thompson can provide." Flash is like, "Which I provided," and she's like, "Please, you've been coasting, chit-chatting with your pet monsters. It's time you got that white suit bloody. There's an all-new Venom running out there, and you're the anti-Venom. How about you bring him in yesterday?" The comic then jumps to tomorrow in Midtown, where we see 2 content creators about to do a video on how to pick up a girl. But they picked the wrong girl. It's actually Madame Masque in disguise, and when she reveals herself, she's like, "You, with the phone, can you switch to a live stream?" He says, "Sure, if you want," and as she says, "Splendid," she shoots one of them in the head while live streaming. Meanwhile, we're taken across town to the Daily Bugle, where Rick Jones is showing Robertson the front page, which is the all-new Venom saving A.I.M agents, which went down in the last issue. This interaction is as you would assume, they're poking each other back and forth to see if one of them is the all-new Venom. But during the conversation, Rick looks at his phone and says, "This is an app I set up back when I was a super hacker. Long story. Functions as a souped-up web alert. Right now, I've got it set for live sightings of either Venom or Madame Masque. She just killed a guy live on stream. Rick gets up and Robbie is all like, "Where are you going?" And he tells him to cover the story. Geez, I'm the Bugle's cape guy. Plus, Masque's right in the middle of this whole Venom done it. If she starts sprouting symbiote, I want a front row seat. As Rick leaves, Robbie says to himself, "But we both know it's not her under the goo. Or do we? How much do you know, Rick?" He then phones his secretary saying, "Glory, hold my calls. I need to step out for a while. Something's come up." We're then brought back to Madame Masque, and we see that A.I.M has tracked her down there as they've been looking to bring her in since the beginning of the series. She then pulls out a gun and Dr. Forson says, "You understand that these suits are bulletproof." She replies, "Of course I do, Forson, but this isn't a bullet." As we see her shoot the gun at his head, but it's a shrunken down M.O.D.O.K that comes flying out of the gun, and just as it's about to hit the doctor in the face, Venom shows up, jumping in front, taking the bullet to the head while saying, "Ow. That's twice this week we've been shot in the head." He continues to say this is different as M.O.D.O.K expands inside Venom's head and bursts out with symbiote goo going everywhere. As M.O.D.O.K bursts out of Venom's head, he says, "Imbecile, do you know how difficult a vial of pin particles is to come by?" The doctor and his agents then say, "We should go." M.O.D.O.K then continues to tell Venom, "I could have lodged in Forson's skull like a tumor, directing his every action. I would have taken over A.I.M, his face, his charisma, his loyal goons, but the genius of M.O.D.O.K behind it all. It was so elegant, so bloodless, but no, I can't have nice things. I'm designed only for killing. Well, fine." As he blasts a telekinetic beam right through the floor of the building, missing Venom. Now from here, an all-out battle starts on the deck of the skyscraper with M.O.D.O.K continuously trying to blast Venom, but he keeps dodging and is even able to web up Madame Masque. Venom then says, "Game's over, Masque, you're tagged out." She replies, "Am I? There's another little playground saying I've always liked. Made you look," as M.O.D.O.K blasts Venom with a psionic beam from his head. Venom then tries to gather himself on the floor as M.O.D.O.K says, "Whoever this new Venom is, they're inexperienced. Premature banter can be fatal. Let me deal with those webs, Masque." M.O.D.O.K then sees Venom getting himself together, saying, "That's embarrassing. My psionic murder beam is usually so efficient. The twin minds of the symbiote and host must have twice the resistance to mental attack. So let's double the dose, shall we?" But Rick Jones then stands up saying, "Excuse me, Rick Jones, Daily Bugle, mind if I ask you guys a few questions?" M.O.D.O.K says, "Anything for the press. But I have a question for you. I sealed the elevators to this deck, and by now the building has surely been evacuated. So how did you even get up here?" Rick replies, "That's actually a good point. How did I get up here?" As we see him start throwing up symbiote goo, Venom then looks over saying, "You?" And on the last page of the issue, we see Rick Jones is the new host for Sleeper. As he says, "Now remember, I'm the sleeper agent." That's how. And with that, we go to issue 5 to see who the all-new Venom is. But finding out that Rick Jones is not Venom and actually Sleeper instead is a pretty amazing reveal. Anyway, issue 5 starts off with Robertson knocking at Mary Jane Watson in Paul's apartment. When Paul opens the door, Robertson asks, "Mind if I come in?" Paul obviously lets him in and then asks, "Is this about Dylan? Because he's at school right now. At least I hope he is." If this is about that list of his, Robbie then takes off his jacket saying, "Dylan Brock? Let me guess. He's made a list of all the people who could be Venom." Paul answers, "God, he hasn't been bugging you about that, has he?" Robbie then says, "Actually, I wanted to keep Dylan out of this. I'm hoping to talk to your other half." Paul asks, "Mary Jane? She's had an appointment." Robbie says, "Really? As herself or as Jackpot?" He then continues to reveal to Paul that, "Yeah, I've known Mary Jane for years. I can puzzle these things out, Paul. Mary Jane Watson is Jackpot, which would make you her man in the chair, so to speak. And I suspect that between the three of us, we know who Venom is too, telling us why Robbie is there." Back at the skyscraper, we see Rick Jones, aka Sleeper, fighting Madame Masque and M.O.D.O.K while saying, "For what it's worth, it's not me spraying you with the synthesized tear gas. I mean, Sleeper's in control here. Rick Jones is just the host. He's going to make me forget all this too, just like every other time since this started. Ethically dubious, right? It's like when I was the Hulk. I'll come to somewhere with this vague, foggy memories." M.O.D.O.K then says, "Brain fog, you say? Then allow me to clear your head right off your shoulders," as he blasts Sleeper. At this point, Venom gets up saying, "Sleeper, thanks for buying us time, but you need to go," as Venom extends his arms and shoves them right up M.O.D.O.K's nostrils, flinging him around. And it's absolutely hilarious. And while Venom's doing this, he continues to talk saying, "What do you think happens if you reveal the Sleeper agent to the world right now? That you can remote control hosts. They're already afraid of us." Sleeper responds, "All the more reason for you to hurry up and break us out of that prison." Rick then says, "I didn't say that." Sleeper then says, "You know the humans want an excuse to put us down. It's only Flash keeping us fed in there. Maybe I should have gone with plan A though. I'm sure Dylan wouldn't have any qualms about sticking it to the man." Venom then says, "Leave your brother out of this." At this point, Venom finally takes his hands and arms out of M.O.D.O.K's nostrils, with M.O.D.O.K being extremely pissed saying, "Telekinetic nostril beams. A first even for me. My nose is itching like crazy. Given the length of my arms, you understand how that might put me in a mood. Which is absolutely hilarious because his arms aren't long enough to scratch his itchy nose. M.O.D.O.K continues to talk about his mood, saying it's a kill everyone here mood. Madame Masque then says, don't do this. We can still turn this around. But he tells her, I think not. Your plan failed, Madame Masque. And you know as well as I that when a caper like this goes south, someone has to take the fall. As he fires a blast so big and powerful, it destroys the entire upper deck of the skyscraper, sending everyone into a free fall to the ground. Venom then says while falling the hostages, Sleeper, use a web cradle. Wide as you can do it. We need to catch everybody. Hit the big debris with the projectile webbing. Stick it to the wall before anyone gets hit. Sleeper says, I'll do what I can. Venom tells him, do better. Do it right. Nobody dies today. You hear me? As M.O.D.O.K fires yet another blast while everyone is free falling. In the same time, the blast hits Sleeper, but the short of it is, Venom is able to save Sleeper, and the combined web cradles they made are able to save the hostages. When Venom lands on the ground after catching Sleeper, he says, my host says nothing's broken, which is a minor miracle. You in one piece in there, Jones? Sleeper replies he's fine, and Venom then says, good, it was him we were saving. We need to have a long talk about controlling human brains and ethical boundaries, Sleeper, but maybe not just yet. As M.O.D.O.K meets them on the ground saying, I mean, if I could clap my hands, I absolutely would. And maybe I should, smushing you both to a pulp with a pair of giant telekinetic fists, then picking the bones out. That would surely improve a disappointing day. Venom then looks at M.O.D.O.K saying, yeah, you got a big brain and a big skull, and it does big things, but you know the only thing we see when we look at you? A big target. As Sleeper shoots his goo all over M.O.D.O.K, with M.O.D.O.K saying, no, get out of my head, you alien usurper. My mind cannot be controlled. My mind is... But Sleeper is able to control his mind, saying, your mind is very powerful, M.O.D.O.K, but since I can take direct control of the organic firmware housing it, that big vulnerable hunk of brain matter, I can simply switch it off. Now go to sleep, as we see M.O.D.O.K all sleeperized. Sleeper then tells Venom, there, I'll leave M.O.D.O.K in a nice catatonic state for the authorities, right after I use him to telepathically blink everyone's mind of the Sleeper agent. Venom then says, you can't just tamper with people's minds. Sleeper responds, it's already done, father. What was the alternative? You said it yourself, it's better the world doesn't know what I could do. Sleeper then calls Rick to him, controlling him, and when Rick gets close, Sleeper goes back inside of Rick saying, it's bad enough that Madame Masque knows about us now. Venom says, wait, you didn't blank her memory? Why not? Sleeper tells him, because she's not here, of course. She must have escaped in the confusion. Still, that's one less mind I tampered with, isn't it? You should be happy. Venom then swings off saying, that kid's a menace. And ultimately, Venom gets back to his apartment of whoever this new host for Venom is, and when they go through the window, they say, we keep quiet, we lay low, we eat the emergency chocolate, and do you hear voices? As we see they're at Mary Jane and Paul's apartment. We see Robbie continuing to talk to Paul, basically telling him, look, I figured out who this all-new Venom is, and I let Rick Jones and Luke Cage believe I thought it was one of them, but it's not. I put all the clues together. Robbie then asks, why would Venom let someone else raise his child? Paul's like, I don't know, maybe Venom thinks his son needs a loving home. The kid was living on the streets, for God's sake. He needed someone, and it was Flash Thompson who set this up. MJ said he was a Venom host once. The symbiote would trust him, right? And Flash trusts MJ, so that's a rational explanation. Robbie then tells Paul, I guess it would be if fostering Dylan was Flash Thompson's idea. Did he come to you, Paul, or did you go to him? Paul then sits down saying, I didn't. It can't be. Robbie then says, I'm sorry, Paul, you didn't know, which means you chose not to tell him, am I right? As he looks over at Venom, and we see Mary Jane coming out of him saying, yeah, Robbie, you hit the jackpot. And with that, the issue ends on the massive reveal that Mary Jane Watson is the all-new Venom. I actually love this. A lot of people seem to be upset about this for some reason, but I think it's brilliant. I mean, it's MJ, Peter Parker's love. This makes all the sense in the world for a very compelling story. And the misdirect this entire time was pretty cool. A bunch of us were thinking Luke Cage. That was my guess, especially with the gold Venom emblem. A lot of people were thinking Rick Jones, but nope, it is MJ. And the gold makes sense because she's also Jackpot. I'm just very curious now that the cat is out of the bag, where the story is gonna go from here and how long MJ will be the host for Venom. But there are so many different things they could do with this, which is why I love it. Like, does Peter know? Is he gonna find out? What's that interaction gonna be like? What is Eddie gonna say when he finds out that Peter Parker's former wife is the new Venom? So again, I'm very excited to see how this all plays out. MJ is a staple in the Spider-Man mythos, so this is gonna be fun. But what do you guys think? Are you excited for this? Do you hate this? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And other than that, we will see you next time when we talk about all things comics.